What's up, I'm Todd, and in this video we're going to take a look at virtual cloud networks. Welcome back. I'm working on a series of videos to show you all about compute in the Oracle Cloud. Before we get too deep into compute, we really need to kind of lay a foundation on the basics of cloud networking. You're really going to need to understand a few things before you can create compute instances and auto-scaling configurations and things like that. It's not really going to be a deep dive into networking. I'm just going to focus on some basic concepts that really all developers should be familiar with. So let's get started. So what is a virtual cloud network or VCN? It's a simple software-defined network that's tied to a given geographical region in the cloud. Now, VCNs are divided into various subnets which represent a portion of the larger network. Now these can be public or private and can be tied to a specific availability domain, or they could be spread across the entire region. Now subnets are associated with route tables and security lists. So route tables, they handle traffic routing from your subnet to somewhere outside of the VCN. Typically you'll have a route rule that points to an internet gateway to allow your instances to talk to the World Wide Web. Now, security lists are like virtual firewall rules for your VCN. They contain ingress and egress rules that specify the types of traffic by protocol and port that are allowed in and out of your instances. Now, by default, these security lists are pretty locked down, and that's a good thing. There's really nothing wrong with pessimistic security. But this means you'll have to explicitly add rules to open certain ports for various protocols. Remember though, security lists govern the VCN only. Your instances that you create will have a firewall that you'll also need to work with to expose ports for your application. Now, I mentioned the term availability domain, also known as an AD earlier. An AD is simply a way to physically isolate resources within a region. Think of this almost like a separate data center. Now, ADs don't share infrastructure or network, but they are all connected to one another within a region with a high bandwidth connection. To take things a step further, we have fault domains. Now, a fault domain is another grouping, but this time it's within an AD. Each AD has 3 separate fault domains, meaning that even within a given AD, there's even more protection for your instances from unexpected outages. Now, there's much more to virtual cloud networks than what I've discussed here, but these are the basics that I think you'll need to know in order to move forward and create a VCN and use that network within your cloud instances. So now let's take a look at how to create a VCN on the Oracle Cloud. All right, so let's take a look at how to create a virtual cloud network in the Oracle Cloud. You have a couple options, and you can see here I'm logged into the Oracle Cloud dashboard right at the main home page. So the first thing I can do is go to the burger menu and select Networking Virtual Cloud Networks. And all of your VCNs are listed here. And at this point, you can click Create Virtual Cloud Network, and you can give it a name and a CIDR block and click Create, and your VCN will be quickly created for you. Now, the only problem with doing it that way is that then you'll be responsible for manually creating your subnets, your internet gateways, your security lists, all your route tables, and those types of things. Which is okay, and if you want to have granular control over it, you could go that route. But if you wanted to make things a little easier for yourself, you could click the Networking Quick Start button right here and kind of go through this simple wizard that I'll show you in a second. Now, a shortcut to that wizard is available right from the home page under Networking and by clicking Set up a network with a wizard. So if we do that, we come into the Quick Start wizard and we see 2 options, VCN with internet connectivity, and we see VCN with VPN Connect and internet connectivity. Now the second option here is going to be used if you had an on-premise network that you wanted to integrate into your cloud, but we're not going to do that, so we'll select the first one and we'll click Start Workflow. And the first thing we want to do at this point within this wizard is give our network a name. So in this case, I'm calling it Demo Network. The next thing we're going to do is select a compartment, and I'll leave the one that's selected there, and come down here under Configure VCN and Subnets, and we choose our VCN CIDR block. Now this is the CIDR range that's going to be used for all of your IP addresses within your virtual cloud network. And if we come down here to our public subnet CIDR block, we have an option here, and we'll just copy the example range, as well as for the private subnet, we'll use that suggested range as well. And we'll leave use DNS host names in this VCN checked, and we'll click next. And at this point, we have a summary of the actions that are going to be created in just a second here. We're going to have a VCN created with the name demo network within this compartment and using this CIDR range. And our subnets, we're going to have two of them created, a public and a private. You can always add more later on if you need more subnets than the two that are created out of the box with the wizard. But we have two that are going to be created, and we have three gateways that are going to be created: an internet gateway, a NAT gateway, and a service gateway. We have two security lists and two route tables, one each for the public network and one each for the private subnet that's going to be created when we click create. So at this point, we click create, and within just a matter of a few seconds, all of those items are going to be created, and our VCN creation is going to be complete. If we click View Virtual Cloud Network at this point, we can come into the details page for our VCN. We see our two subnets listed here, and we come over to the sidebar and we see a couple route tables that were created, an internet gateway, and our security lists, as well as all the other assets that were created. Now, if we wanted to view our security lists, we click on security lists and we see both of them listed here. And as I said earlier, if we click into the default security list, we can see all of the ingress and egress rules for this default security list. Now, if we're going to do an internet application here, what we want to do is make sure that we have ports 80 and 443 open to open within this VCN. So if we add our ingress rules such as this and click add ingress rules, those will be added really quickly, and your VCN is up and ready to go. Now, as I said earlier, if you do have an instance that uses this VCN that has a app server or a web server, such as Nginx or Apache or whatever you may be using, Tomcat, you do want to make sure that your internet firewall on the instance itself opens those ports as well. Otherwise, you won't be able to get directly to that web server. But you're ready to go. Your VCN is now created and can now be used with any instances within the Oracle Cloud.